Hello, my name is Timothy Swan, and I would like to introduce to you today the problem that Blizzard has for their setup of StarCraft 2 and why the custom map system for joining hosted games does not work properly like the one for StarCraft 1 did. An important aspect to joining these games is that of knowing whether a certain map is being hosted or not. In the original StarCraft, you had many maps. Let's say this is the set of maps. And these are only the custom maps that I'm going to be talking about. Now, some of these maps are so good and so popular that they're played all the time. So we're going to call these popular custom maps. Now, the other ones are non-popular custom maps. However, the sum of the non-popular custom maps being played at one time can still be greater than the sum of the popular maps being played at one time, or the number of players actually playing with those maps, because you would actually want to add up the games to find out which one is more important, not the number of maps. So, non-popular. I'm going to put quotes around that to show you that they're considered non-popular in the popular sorting method that StarCraft 2 uses. But in reality, this non-popular group can actually, the sum of it, be more popular. Just the individual maps themselves are the non-popular ones. Now, for instance, let's say it's about 4 p.m. Central Time in the United States. Right now, you're going to have all of these maps being played, plus you're going to have some group of the non-popular maps being played. And we'll say that this group is still bigger than the popular group. But at 5 o'clock, you have this one. So out of all these possible maps, at one instance in time, you're going to have a lot of non-popular maps being played. Now, this worked out just fine in the original StarCraft. The reason being is because you had a good balance of hosting to joining. See, for each game, you have one host, and then you have maybe 5-7 players about. So let's say this bar is the players online. About that many should be hosts. Okay? If this line starts to move to here, then you have a problem because you're going to have extra people hosting online wasting their time. This should probably be, I'm going to guess, that it's about 12%. I don't know what the exact number would be, but since 12% is about 1 in 8, I would guess that the number of hosts in the lobbies, and in the games obviously, but in the lobbies it should be about 12% as well. If it goes up to, like, let's say 40%, then that's inefficiency, and that's something that Blizzard should fix. Now, let me draw you a picture of the players online who are playing custom maps. I'll call them custom map players. Okay, now the custom map players, some of them are going to play the popular maps at one given instance of time. Now, the rest of these, let's say this is at 4 p.m. Okay, that means these are non-popular maps at 4 p.m. So these maps right here are being played by these players who are choosing to play the non-popular maps. Now, since they tend to change a lot, and since non-popular maps work in a different way to where you have thousands of them, but since there's only a few hundred people online at a time, they have to converge and choose certain groups and say, we're going to play this one right now, and this map later, and then later on we're going to play this map. And it all depends on what everybody else is playing. There's no way that you're going to play all of them at the same time, because there's way too many maps as opposed to the number of players that are on at that very instant. So this is the 4 p.m. non-popular map players. And I'm going to fix this. This is actually popular map players. Notice that this group is actually bigger than that small group. Now what I want to do is I want to introduce to you what happens when Blizzard screws up and they don't show you who's hosting, or they don't eliminate all the extra maps so that you automatically just join a game that is already being hosted. I'm going to erase this original one. And I'm going to take this outer group right here and call it the non-popular map players. Okay, now this is what will happen to this group of people. In the original StarCraft, this entire set of players at a given instance will stay, and they will continue to play non-popular custom maps and keep choosing different maps at a time to play that are not necessarily popular all the time, but they are definitely played consistently, and they are definitely fun, entertaining, and very creative, and they are played a lot. The sum of them is so great that not a single one is necessarily played a lot. That's why I call them, remember, that's why I call them non-popular maps. In StarCraft 2, because they don't show you who's hosting, and they sort all the maps by popularity, these maps always get played. But there's only like the top 20 maps or so. All the rest of them, nobody knows what to join, and as soon as they choose a map to join, it actually makes them hosts because no one is actually hosting it. And they don't know what is everyone else doing to host it. So with all these complaints that they send to Blizzard about trying to join these maps and trying to get new maps, Blizzard beats around the bush and they don't realize the true problem. The true problem is that they need to show who's hosting. But they fix it superficially by adding in chat so that you can communicate with other people and find out what they're playing. They add in the invite for friends, which is useful, but you still can't play with strangers very easily or people you don't know, which is something that is very common in the original StarCraft. And they also, to introduce the new maps, they also created a featured map system, which is still beating around the bush, even though it helps out a little bit. Now with the non-popular map players, this is the result of what happens when you don't show what maps are being hosted. Now I'm going to guess because I don't know the actual numbers, but if you have any question about my estimates here, feel free to message me or post a comment and say, well, I don't think the number is that big. I don't think it should take that much space on the pie chart. Now, I'm going to say a lot of these people who originally want to play the non-popular maps literally get bored and quit. So these people automatically, they say, I don't want to play StarCraft 2 that much anymore. I'm kind of bored because I don't want to play the melee maps and I don't want to play the popular maps. Now there are some that do want to play the melee and some that want to play the popular. But remember, this pie chart is referring to people who tried to play the non-popular maps first. So that means they're being forced to do something that they don't want to do. So in a way, they're still quitting on the non-popular maps. Now, you also have a few that are smart and they have friends and they use the chat. That says chat and invites. So those people stay because they're actually still able to play the non-popular maps, but still not as easily as in the original. Now you do have a few left, and it's not a lot, but you do have a few that are waiting. And they're waiting to try to join and to play these non-popular maps, and they still believe in StarCraft, and they still want to make these custom maps. But what's sad is, when they wait, a lot of the times, it's not 12% of them that are hosts. I believe that it's closer maybe to 40%. That's just a guess though. I don't have the actual numbers to work with. But the reason why I say that is because there are a lot of maps open, and a lot of people trying to join them and waiting in the lobby, and if only 1 or 2 or 3 people join without starting a map, well, that's not 7 or 8 people. That's only 2 or 3, and one of them is a host. And right there, if you have 4 people and one of them is a host, that is already 25%. That's pretty big of a number. But sometimes I would say that only 1 or 2 people join, which is closer to 33% or 50%. And that is inefficiency. Blizzard needs not to worry about the chat program. They need to not really worry about the friends program right now, or the invites. They need to not really worry about the featured maps right now. What they need to worry about is they need to worry about getting rid, if you want to call it the popular map system. I wouldn't say you really need to get rid of that kind of sorting method completely, but what I do have to say is they must show which maps are being hosted, and they need to be truthful when you click create game or join game. They need to be truthful on which one you actually are doing. Because when I click create game, that means I want to host. When I click join game, that doesn't mean that I want to host. Just because that map isn't being played doesn't mean I automatically want to host it. Why? Because maybe I just want to join a game that has more people playing at the time. And that sounds like a personal preference at first, which may be why Blizzard or other people might blow this off as a simple complaint. However, right there, that simple change will actually change how thousands of people online are actually trying to join games together. And while it may seem like just something for one person to make it nicer for them, it actually affects hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people actually trying to join the games. So if you're watching this and you don't really understand this problem completely, realize this. I'm not complaining about something that just makes it nicer and easier for one person or for anyone to just join a game. I'm making it so that people can actually start joining games and maps that are non-popular, because without this fix, that is nearly impossible. So thank you for watching. Please give me comments. Please subscribe. And I will try to make another video if necessary soon. Goodbye.